Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Nikhil. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
How are you doing, Nikhil?
I'm good, sir.
Okay. Nikhil, how would you like to identify yourself?
Sir, as far as my career record is concerned, I'm an electrical engineer from IT Delhi. I was born and brought up in Punjab. I'm a very good Bhangra dancer, and my father says I'm a mediocre blues guitarist. So that is my self-identification.
So that's a wide kind of engagement.
So,
well, what draws my attention out of all this is blues guitar.
Yes, sir.
Are you learning the blues, or you are still or you are an expert?
Oh, not at all an expert, sir. I'm still on my way to learning the basic scales and modes so that I'm able to improvise. I can play the chords quite well, but you give me a chord progression, and improvising and expressing myself creatively, that is the journey that I'm on.
Nikhil, what is the difference between Chicago blues and Delta blues?
So Delta blues is the earlier version of blues. It's in the American South, the original form of blues, if you will. It's more closely related to the country music because it's rural in origin, while Chicago blues is more urban style of blues. Most famously, Muddy Waters, Buddy Guy, these are the famous exponents of Chicago blues.
Okay. This Delta blue, is it related to any river or geographic feature?
Exactly, sir. Mississippi Delta is the origin of the name, Delta blues.
Do you have any idea how many states of the United States they have a course of the Mississippi?
No, sir, not at all. I'm sorry.
Nikhil, in what role you appreciate the government more, as an enabler or as an actor in the economy?
So I believe both roles are important. Of course, post-liberalization, the government has focused more on an enabling role where the private sector takes the lead. But because India is still a developing country and a large section of our population is still dependent, cannot afford the basic needs of nutrition, of health, of education, there the government needs to be more proactive to make sure basic human rights are not denied.
Nikhil, in India, we are witnessing an unprecedented growth in the startup culture. Many people are now drawn towards that aspect of career. But yet we see a trend that several startups, they attain the unicorn status, but they fail to become multi-million-dollar company. What is the biggest roadblock, Nikhil?
So in my opinion, the last few years have seen a tremendous amount of infusion of venture capital funds into startups, which has led to a high valuation. But the flip side of that is there has not been a focus on long-term sustainability of revenues. So if you look at the difference between valuations of the startup and their profitability, there's a huge difference. In fact, in the edtech sector, which had a huge growth in the last few years of the pandemic, I don't think we have a single profitable startup, which is an area of concern. The VC funds can only provide the initial push. The startup founders need to focus on building sustainable business models for India to actually have big international players in their respective fields.
Do you see any problem with the present incubation setup? Do you suggest anything more other than what is already present?
I would like the VCs to focus more. So my understanding of the sector is that even in the VC space, there are early stage investors. There are investors who come in at a certain when a certain level of growth has been achieved, and then there are big sharks like SoftBank, which come in when the IPO is about to happen. Now, each of these players is just focusing on their timeline. Will I be able to make an exit or not after, say, 1 or 2 years? I would like them to have a more holistic approach towards the larger economic scenario and focus on sustainable business models and not just their own profit after 1 or 2 years.
Good. Nikhil, I was just going through your section of the DAF where you have highlighted some of the positions of distinction leadership held in school and college. And I see an array of different types of roles. You have been a secretary of the IIT Delhi Quizzing Club.
Yes, sir.
You have also been director of the IIT Delhi Bhangra team.
Yes, sir.
And you have acted as a mentor at IIT Delhi Student Mentorship Program.
Yes, sir.
Nikhil, what is the role of a mentor in anybody's life?
So two roles that I focused on. One is during the phase of transition, where there are many choices in front of you when you encounter some new area. For example, I was a mentor to incoming freshman class at IIT Delhi. So a change from being at home to coming to a hostel, to a college environment, where you're free in terms of choosing your courses and what to do with the rest of your time. Those choices become very important in determining the course of the rest of your college life. The second rule is continuity. As all of us experience, in daily life, there can be a certain monotony that can set in. We can get limited to our comfort zone and not try to improve ourselves every day. There, having a mentor can be very helpful, who can identify when we are slagging and give us the necessary push at the right time so that we continue on the journey of self-improvement.
Okay. And what was your major role when you served as the secretary of the IIT Delhi Quizzing Club?
So I was the overall in charge of the college quizzing setup. For that, we were also rewarded the Best Student Club Award that year, which I'm very proud of. The thing that I focused on the most was increasing participation in the quizzing club. So the way the quizzing club was perceived was, it was very respected because these people are smart, but it was not very accessible for most people. So the way I wanted to improve that participation was, I focused on the things that people were already comfortable with. We started themed quizzes. For example, there was a quiz that was just focused on Big Bang Theory, because that was a very popular TV show at that time. The second thing that we did was, it was very intimidating to just, where do you even start preparing for a Big Bang Theory quiz? So we actually invited questions from all ITD students. We gave them a set of questions that this is how we frame questions. Now you go there and just figure out a question. I'll give you an example. An excellent question that a student came up with, that there's in America in the 1950s and 60s, there was this guy who saw that Barbie dolls are very popular amongst girls. So there must be a similar demand for boys' dolls as well. But no boy is going to play with a doll because that was the sexist nature of a doll. So he came up with a different term called something, which changed the game as far as boys' toys were concerned. Now, the question was, what is that term? So the answer was action figure. And this Big Bang Theory, if anyone has seen, action figures are a very important part of the lives of the protagonists. So a student actually came up with this. Now, as students wanted to make those questions, they were effectively preparing for the quiz. And they wanted to actually come to the quiz and participate in the quiz. And we were able to achieve a 2.5 times increase in the average number of participants in the quizzing club that I'm very happy and proud of.
That's very nice to hear, Nikhil. Nikhil, so far, whatever the interaction that we have had, I am getting a feeling that you are very vibrant and you can engage yourself very well with people. You have also been in some of the leadership roles. Don't you think, Nikhil, you are more suitable for politics rather than bureaucracy? Because we want young people like you in Indian politics. And I also have a thing to back my argument, and that is when I see your extracurricular activity, I see that you have been associated in NSS internship with a Rajya Sabha MP.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So why you are opting for administration or bureaucracy, to be more precise, over politics, when you can actually create difference by laying out policies and be in a position of key decision maker rather than being an implementer and an advisor? Yes.
So the way I chose this career path was, I wanted to align the incentives of that career path with what I want to pursue. So bureaucracy is a permanent executive, while a politician, they are elected representatives. And of course, they are the highest decision-making authority in India. But their incentives are always thought of in 5-year terms. I do not want myself to focus on the 5-year electoral strategy making. I want to focus on what the issues are and how can I best contribute to resolving those issues. And the career paths that civil services offers. Initially, you're involved in policy implementation. You learn over the course of 16, 18 years what the ground level situation is. And then you get to be in policy making roles. Without worrying about your career, your position, you would always be posted in certain department. So that is a worry that I will not have. Since that is not something that I need to divert my time towards. So in that sense, civil services offers a more a career path more in line with the incentives that I want to pursue.
Have you heard about this term called bureaucratic fatigue?
No, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you aware about guided democracies?
No, sir. I'm sorry. I've not heard about that.
Okay. What is your take on the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict? If you have to sum up the entire issue in not more than 2 lines, what would be your explanation?
Russia launched a military action against Ukraine because it was threatened by ongoing NATO expansion, and also because there was a miscalculation on the part of Russia, where it did not expect the West to respond in as coherent a manner as it did, which has led to the present crisis.
Okay. What is more popular in Punjab, Bhangra or Lassi?
Any festival, sir, a Bhangra performance has to be followed by Lassi. The kind of energy that Bhangra takes, it's Lassi that can rejuvenate you from that.
Okay. Nikhil, highlight 3 important values that anchor your personality.
Decisiveness, first and foremost. The second would be integrity. I believe in being completely honest with myself and with my peers. And the third is a high level of optimism. I believe there are many times in life where it can throw you down, but it's all about getting back up and taking the punches and continue to move forward.
Can you recall an incident from your life where you have exhibited integrity?
Yes, sir. When I was a secretary of Quizzing Club, in fact, there's an unfortunate situation where friendships are used to get CV points in college. So I was fairly active. I had a wide friend circle. But as a secretary of Quizzing Club, there were friends who wanted me to substantiate the CV points for the placement season, which I flatly refused to do. It was not easy because they were close friends, but I'm happy with the way I came out of that.
Nikhil, when I was looking at your cadre preferences, I found out that the Zone 4, or specifically speaking, the northeastern zone of the country, has been accorded a last preference. Don't you think that you would be serving the country in a better manner if you go to the northeast, because that part of the country has been historically underdeveloped?
So first, I must make clear, I'm more than happy to serve anywhere that the government wants me. The way I decided my cadre preferences is Zone 1 on the basis of proximity to my father. And all the other zones, if you look at the state's preference, it's on the basis of the size of the state, where I believe I have a wider ambit, a more diverse area of responsibility to work in. But even as far as Northeast is concerned, my 5th preference is a Northeastern state. And there's a high chance that I get posted there. And I would give my very best to improve the working environment and the living conditions of the people in the Northeast.
Nikhil, do you hold any kind of bias towards the tribals?
No, sir, not at all.
Because I was just looking at your cadre preferences. In Zone 2, Jharkhand has been placed at the lowest position. In Zone 3, Chhattisgarh has been placed in the lowest position. In Zone 1, Himachal Pradesh has been placed in the lowest position. In Zone 5, Nagaland has been placed at the lowest position. So all these states have substantial tribal population. So this creates an impression as if you are biased against the tribals. Do you want to defend yourself on that, Nikhil?
So as I told you about my thought process, it was about the size of the states. Madhya Pradesh has probably the largest tribal population in India. Maharashtra has a significant tribal population, as does Karnataka, as does Telangana. So I would humbly submit that that was nowhere near my thought process, the idea of Northeast having a higher tribal presence and hence not opting for it.
Nikhil, if you are given an opportunity to design India's manufacturing policy, what principles will you hold in your mind before you create a draft?
So my overriding principle would be, what are our existing advantages and how can we improve upon them? There was an excellent paper written by some Harvard economists, which actually mapped out in the last century how different countries had improved their manufacturing sector. And it actually drew out linkages that if you are good in this particular domain, in this very narrow specialization, then you can branch out into this sector, and then you can branch out into this sector. So my focus would be getting an expert team to conduct a similar study for India in detail. What are the things that we are good at? For example, we are good at automobiles, but we know that we still import about $18 billion of automobile components, tooling components. So I would want to branch out into automobile components so that we can save on that foreign exchange and diversify our manufacturing sector even further.
Nikhil, as per you, which is the best public good that government is producing at this moment? You can also think of in terms of a service.
So the most important public good that the government provides is security. I think that is the number one concern of the government. And in that regards, India government has performed very well after the tragic Mumbai attack. We have not had a significant terrorist attack against civilians in the country of that scale and order. Apart from that, food security, nutritional security is something that India has done very well. Especially during the coronavirus period, where there was a huge threat of migrants going back, and how are we going to make sure that everyone gets food grains? The government has performed very well in that regard.
Okay. Nikhil, have you heard about green hydrogen?
Yes, sir.
How is it different from, say, gray hydrogen?
So the difference is in how it is produced. Green hydrogen uses renewable energy for the reaction to produce hydrogen from water. Green hydrogen uses fossil fuels.
Okay. Have you heard about blue and turquoise hydrogen? Any idea about those things?
So I would hazard a guess with your permission.
Yeah, please go on.
So I believe in blue hydrogen, you still use fossil fuels, but you do try to capture the carbon dioxide that's produced. So you try to mitigate to some extent the negative environmental consequences of using fossil fuels.
And what about turquoise?
Not heard of that term, sir.
Okay. Nikhil, it is often argued that Indian bureaucracy is effective but not efficient. What do you understand by that argument?
So effectiveness would be in terms of following the procedures correctly. Efficiency would be, are we actually meeting our goals in the best possible manner? So I'm a mathematics student, sir. My optional is mathematics. In that sense, I would compare between local maxima and global maxima. So you can play at a lower level equilibrium. You can play there perfectly, but there may be a higher level equilibrium that's available, but that requires a certain level of initiative and out-of-the-box thinking, where Indian bureaucracy can be said to be lacking in achieving a global maxima, an efficient solution versus just being effective in the local maxima and optimizing for that local maxima.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Thank you, sir.
Nikhil.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Nikhil, your date of birth interests me.
So,
8th of August. What is so special about this date, Nikhil?
So it is the date when the Quit India resolution was adopted at the Mumbai session.
Okay, good. And you seem to be a very happy-go-lucky person. And does that ring any bell in you about something else that is celebrated, this day celebrated as?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not able to recall immediately.
Good. Happy people should know that, and you are a very happy person. This day is also celebrated as the Happiness Happens Day. Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, sir.
Okay, Nikhil, what exactly is the meaning of your name, Nikhil? What does it mean?
Sir, my Nanu informed me, he was the one who coined it, that it means complete. There are no gaps, there are no deficiencies.
Good. And this name also is a name given to one of the Indian gods. Do you have any idea whom am I talking about?
No, sir, I'm sorry, not aware.
Okay. Lord Vishnu is also called Nikhil.
Okay.
Okay. You are from Faridkot, right?
Yes, sir.
Recently, a place called as Khatar Kala was very prominent a few days back in the news also. What was it on account of?
So it is the birthplace of Shahid Bhagat Singh, and the present chief minister took his oath in Khatkar Kala, which is why it was in the news.
Good. Nikhil, you just now said one of the three values that define you is decisiveness, integrity, and optimism.
Yes.
And I see that you are continuing with your efforts at the civil services, and this is your seventh attempt, I suppose, or the sixth attempt.
Sixth attempt and my last attempt, yes, sir.
Yes. And tell me, what was your progression during all these five attempts that you had?
So I have been to the interview stage once in 2018, 2019 session. I have qualified for four prelims examinations. I'm sorry, sir, there's just... I'm so sorry, sir. There was a phone call. Yes, sir. I'll just switch it off, sir. Just give me a second. I'm really sorry for this disruption, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I have reached the interview stage once before this, and I've qualified the prelim stage 4 times. My progression as a graph would be continuous upward progression till 2018, and then a downward progression. I could not qualify the prelims in my previous attempt.
And what was the reason for that?
So initially, my approach towards examination was completely incorrect. It was not exam oriented. I was reading a lot, but not actually focused on how my output would be. Later on, my performance did suffer because the pressure that my failures created. If you look at my academic record, it has been fairly good. I did not expect to fail as I did in the examination. And handling that failure took me some time to learn. But I have made progress on that. And as a result, I'm sitting here in front of you.
And did anything, what do you think went wrong in your interview in 2018?
Could you repeat your question, sir? I'm sorry, I cannot hear it.
What do you think went wrong in 2018 during the interview?
So my interview was decent. My general studies marks were very low, because of which I could not make it to the final list.
Okay, and how has the performance been during this year's examination?
Sir, I have given my best. I think I've improved by quite a bit. Rest, the jury is out.
Okay. Nikhil, a job contributes a very, very big number of people to the defense services, right? And I would want to ask you one question about the defense services. In terms of the Indian defense exports, tell me, what was the target that the government had laid for the 5 years, and what is the achievement of that target?
So could you repeat which target are you talking about?
I'm talking about the India's defense exports.
Right, sir. So the government has laid a 5-year target of around $5 billion of exports. Presently, we are around 10,000 crore rupees, which is around $1.3 billion.
Good. You have also been a part of the NSS, right?
Yes, sir.
NSS internship, when you said. This
Yes,
was, in which year was this?
So this was during college. It was in 2012, 2013, December, January.
Okay. Tell me, what exactly is the motto of the NSS?
So it is not me, but you. It's a motto of service.
And perfect. And what is the purpose of the NSS, the objective of the NSS?
So as I understand it, it is to get our youth more interested and more engaged in community service activities, to inculcate a sense of leadership, and that leadership being exercised in public interest for the service of the people.
Good. You said that the motto was not me, but you. What does the motto signify?
Selfless service.
You are also, you have been playing squash, right?
Yes, sir.
Squash team.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, of late, there has been a change in the scoring pattern. Earlier, it used to be a 9-point game, and now it is a 11-point game.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference that has cropped up in between?
I'm sorry, sir. I only played in the 11-point game format. I'm not aware of why the change was made.
Okay. Tell me, 4 strokes that are used in the game of squash.
So parallels, cross court, drop, and volley.
Okay. Fantastic. Very nice.
Thank you, sir.
You are also been a part of very, very keen quizzer also, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you one quiz question in that case. Can you hear me? I think we have lost connection. Hmm. It is really the main thing that I asked. for all this. Okay, Nikhil, what I was talking about when we broke off was you are a very keen quizzer.
Yes, sir.
And you have finished on the podium a couple of times, multiple times rather.
Sir.
Okay, I would just want to ask one question, a quiz question, right?
Sir.
Okay. Who was the first man on the moon to put his foot on the moon?
Neil Armstrong.
Well, that in any case was not what I wanted to ask. Who was the second person?
So that is a trick question, sir, because the second foot on the moon was Neil Armstrong's, but the second man on the moon was Buzz Aldrin.
Wonderful. Okay, good. So you've covered both the angles, the reality as well as the humor part of it. Who was the man who was a part of the Apollo 11 crew who did not step on the moon at all?
I'm sorry, sir. I forget his name.
That actually was my question.
Okay. I apologize, sir. I remembered it long back.
No worry. It was Collins. Good. Nevertheless, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Sagar?
Hello, Nikhil.
Hello, sir.
Nikhil, you are a Bhangra dancer, right?
Yes, sir.
How your Bhangra can help you in administration?
Sir, Bhangra has helped Punjab in its society. It brings people together. It's a joyous occasion of celebration. So, say I'm in an office that has been newly set up, and there's a lack of team spirit or lack of bonding. Bhangra is an excellent icebreaker because it's a folk dance. You don't have to be trained for it. You just need to lift arms up in the air and have fun.
Okay, so being an officer, should you dance? Or
if the decorum of the occasion is not violated, sir, yes.
Okay. So tell me the difference between Nritya and Natya.
So I believe these are the three classifications that Bharat Muni uses in Natya Shastra. Nritya refers to pure dance, Natya refers to dramatic element, and Nritya refers to the complete holistic both dance, rhythm parts and expression of emotion.
Nritya refers to dramatic element, I think you said other way around. Nritya refers to abstract form of dance. Nritya refers to some specific form of dance, and Natya refers to the dramatic angle of.
I got Natya right, but I think yes, I got the other two wrong.
Yes, not an issue. Do you think that Rajya Sabha elections require some changes?
So the rule for which Rajya Sabha was initially conceived, one, to get expert members who would not be able to come through regular direct election process. And second, as the upper house, it was also supposed to represent the states as the Council of States. Now, in that sense, I do believe that it would be a better idea to have only the states, citizens of the concerned state, to be able to represent that state in the Rajya Sabha. That would be my major proposal regarding Rajya Sabha elections.
Okay. Currently, the state's representation in Rajya Sabha is decided by the population of that concerned state. Right, do you think that we should adopt the model where each and every state get equal representation despite of its size or population in Rajya Sabha?
No, sir. I believe it was a conscious decision made at the time of drafting of Constitution. United States has equal representation for each state because it was coming together of states and pooling of sovereignty, while India is a federalism by disaggregation. So the Indian Union comes first, and then it forms the different states. So the states do not have India is a union of indestructible union of destructible states. So in that sense, having equality of representation with regards to each citizen, which population criteria provides, is a better measure in my opinion.
Okay. Does science helps in shaping leadership in the society?
Definitely, sir. Science provides for a more rational and a more objective way of approaching problems, especially because society is often driven with different cleavages in terms of caste, class, gender. A more scientific approach to leadership would help in a more equal and a more equitable uh, decision making.
Good. When sir asked you about why you don't want to go for politics and want to join bureaucracy, you said that bureaucracy provides some sort of permanent job.
Yes, sir.
But don't you think that this kind of permanency will lead to down rating or will lead to compromise in terms of inquisitiveness or creativity or the zeal for hard work?
So you're right. There can be a trade-off in between job security and the enthusiasm to perform every day. But as far as I am concerned, the challenges that the job offers are in itself so exciting, and I'm a curious person by nature, that job security will not be able to dent even one bit my curiosity and my determination to do my job to the best of my ability.
Those challenges could also be in politics. Once at one time you are in power and one time you are nobody. So that is also a challenge. So in terms of challenges, politics is more challenging.
Exactly, sir. As I mentioned in my previous answer, it's about incentives. What are those challenges about? In politics, it's about gaining power. In administration, you already have the authority. It's about serving the people to the best of your ability. And that is what I want to spend each and every day of my life doing.
Good. Your place of birth is Faridkot, right?
Yes, sir.
In 2015, Faridkot had some sacrilege issue that was recently also in news.
Right, sir.
Why in Punjab specifically such kind of issues are popping up?
So there's a history to it. The Sikh religion specifically, its history in the last 500, 600 years has been an unfortunate history of persecution. Especially during the Mughals' rule for around 300 years. Several gurus, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, were martyred by the Mughals, which has led to increased sensitivities. If you also look at Punjab in the 70s and the 80s, the rise of militancy was because there was a perception created that Hindus were seeking to dominate and assimilate Sikhism into their religion. Today, the same sensitivity has been transferred to certain deras, certain independent godmen. And specifically the issue that you mentioned, 2015, it was blamed on a particular Dera sect that was pre-planned conspiracy on their part. So that history of persecution combined with the narrative that is created today regarding certain villains in the public consciousness, that leads to heightened sensitivity and these controversies.
Good. Do you think that government was right in its abolition of farm bills?
So I listened to Prime Minister's interview in this regard, in which he said the farm bills were brought in in farmers' interest, but they are being repealed in national interest. The way I interpreted that was there was a significant national security angle. I believe the Chief of Defense Staff also commented that there were attempts by foreign actors to reinvigorate the Khalistan movement in Punjab. I believe that was a significant factor in which this decision was made. It's unfortunate. I believe the farm bills were very important to put agriculture on a growth path. But I would defer to the government's judgment in balancing security interests with economic interests.
Good. Your optional was mathematics?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me 3 real-life application of Fibonacci series?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm completely blanked on that.
Okay, not an issue. One last question from my side.
So,
what are the current issues with school education? And when I say school education, I'm talking about specifically primary and secondary school education, which can be rectified with correct measures. What are the problems and what should be the measures to be taken?
So the biggest problem, as ACER reports have highlighted, is of learning outcomes. We have invested a lot in infrastructure in terms of teachers, but our students in class 2, class 5 are unable to read texts, understand them, or solve simple mathematical problems of even 3 classes, their junior. That is the primary issue. Enrollment issues we have resolved. As far as the learning outcome issue is concerned, I believe the new education policy offers an excellent roadmap, in which first, it focuses on early childhood care and education, because a significant part of a child's mental development happens from 0 to 6 years of age. Focusing on getting basic numeracy and linguistic skills in those early years before the first standard, and then focusing on experiential learning, in which it's not just about rote memorization. We see, even in my experience in the initial few classes, it's about memorizing certain grammatical rules, for example, instead of letting a child's creativity blossom, which helps them in having a more holistic approach to a subject. So experiential approach to education is an excellent step. The third would be remedial education. Because of the very strict gradation of classes from class 1 to 2 to 3, even a child with 40% marks can move from first standard to second standard. But for example, in mathematics, if you only know 40% of the subject and you are unfamiliar with 60% of the concepts, you will fail miserably in future classes and develop a phobia of mathematics. So remedial classes for whichever topics a child is not comfortable with in the previous standards should be also done. For example, a third standard child should have remedial classes for second class concepts that he could not grasp then.
Okay. And what about secondary education problems? You have highlighted mainly primary education problems.
So secondary education, if I recall correctly, we still have a gender gap where girls are not as well represented as boys, and there are also a higher proportion of school dropouts. So that is one thing that we must remedy. The second thing that government has focused on is skill-based education. We are starting vocational education from 9th standard onwards, so that we can offer multiple exit paths to students in the...
Okay, fine. I got it. One last question. Why in some primary schools, gross enrollment ratio is above 100%?
It is because of the age, the different age of enrollment. So a 7-year-old child may be enrolled in the first standard, but 6-year-old children is the denominator that is used for calculating gross enrollment ratio. So that is the reason then.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nikhil, just a couple of questions before we wind this thing up. So, what excites you more, equality or liberty?
Liberty.
Okay. Nikhil, how would you like to sum up your personality if you can do that with the help of a quote? And mind it, the quote should be in your mother tongue.
Sir, Hindi and Punjabi, we use both. I'm comfortable.
Go for a Punjabi quote and explain it for the benefit of all.
So I can only, I'm only thinking of a Hindi quote, if you would permit me, an Urdu quote, if you will.
Okay, go on.
अगर बाजी इश्क की बाजी हो, जो चाहे लगा दो डर कैसा. अगर बाजी इश्क की बाजी हो, जो चाहे लगा दो डर कैसा. अगर जीत गए तो क्या कहने, हारे भी तो बाजी मात नहीं. It's a share by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, and it means it's a battle of love. Put whatever at stake, doesn't matter. If you win, it's amazing. But even if you lose, it's not a loss, because you gave something that you love, your everything.
Thank you, Nikhil. It was nice interacting with you. We will reconnect with you in some time for your feedback.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nikhil, am I audible to you, dear?
Yes, sir.
Nikhil, it was a wonderful performance.
Thank you, sir.
And let me highlight the good things first.
So,
you are having an excellent communication skill. You articulate your points very well. You present them wonderfully. And your content is organized.
Thank you, sir.
you had knowledge on most of the things, and where there was some deficiency, you very politely opted out of giving an answer.
So,
your personality is very vibrant, dear.
thank you, sir.
You appeared very polite. You have good mannerisms. Everything was appropriate. But Nikhil, since this is a critical analysis, let me highlight the areas where there is still room for improvement.
So,
one is, Nikhil, when the meaning of your name was presented to you, that Lord Vishnu is also known as Nikhil. Although in some other occasions you thanked the panelist, there you just said, okay, sir. So never miss an opportunity to thank the panelist. But that's again a very minor kind of mistake.
I'll keep that in mind.
In some other instances, you definitely did that. There was some mobile phone ringing issue, but again, that was out of your control. And that is not likely to happen because you're not going to carry one in the interview hall, right? So we can just, we can safely neglect that. Then while you were highlighting your point regarding the farm bills, there you said, I listened to the Prime Minister's speech. Dear, this is a formal conversation. So whenever you use the name of, or whenever you are referring to a high office of the land, like Prime Minister, President, always use the word honorable.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, sir.
It reflects that you have great admiration for the constitutional setup.
Understood.
It puts you in a good stead, right? Your answer regarding most of the questions were very well handled. Especially, I'm impressed with how you handled the hobby section. And you were aware about, actually, I was about to ask something about muddy waters. But you already highlighted that. By the way, B.B. King belongs to what kind of blues?
I'm not sure, sir. B.B. King is like a class unto himself. I'm not sure if he can be slotted.
Are you aware about different type of riffs?
Yes, sir. I do practice them. Yes, sir.
So I wanted to ask that question too, but study that area very well, right?
Understood.
Because those who will be sitting in the board, there's a great chance there कि उनमें से कोई ना कोई blue का fan होगा, क्योंकि it's an old form of music, ना?
Yes, sir. Yes.
अभी modern तो है नहीं.
Right.
And otherwise, Nikhil, I think excellent performance.
Thank you, sir.
You are a bright prospect. That's my feedback.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. That means a lot, sir. Thank you.
Nikhil, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think now you can hear me and see me both, Nikhil.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Nikhil, to cut a very long story short, excellent, very soft-spoken, good communication skills, well-dressed for the occasion, lovely smile, high energy level, all very good. I will not like to talk about it, right? A few points for improvement which should help you in your final day.
So,
number one, I love the fact that when you gave an answer, you justified it with an example. It went off very well. Right? In a couple of places, I felt, I shouldn't be saying so, but I felt a little bit of informality.
Okay.
A couple of places you use the word matlab. Once you said, no, sir, not at all. In one instance, you went on to say, I'm sorry, I have no idea about it. So, I mean, these could have either been avoided or put in a different format.
I'll work on that, sir.
Yes. Yeah. There were too many oohs and ahs. Too many oohs and ahs. That has to be controlled. Head movement was excessive. Now, I'm not sure whether it was because of the online mode. Had it been probably physical, it may not have happened. But make sure that that does not happen in the real time interview.
So,
except for that one instance wherein you did not say thanks, as has been pointed out.
Sir.
Other instances you did that. It was good. So, because these are opportunities to thank the people and get them in your good book.
Right.
So that is important, right? So I felt in a little while that you were not prepared for the interview because your phone rang and you were slightly confused. But remember, we can always overlook this fact, but the fact is on the final day, such a thing should not happen. Don't go unprepared with something. Like the things like you should not be wearing a watch or you should not be carrying a mobile. So keep that in mind on the final day at least, right? Be absolutely prepared. I like the idea. You had a good sense of humor and keep that up. It's nice.
Thank you, sir.
And the best of all, the answer to the choice of preference for the zone. That was a very good answer.
Thank you, sir.
All in all, a wonderful interview, but I would want to warn you, right? Please take it as a word of advice. Don't get too complacent about it.
Sir.
These issues that have been told to you, touch upon them. Make sure that they are overlooked. You overcome these issues, and I can assuredly tell you that you are going to be one amongst the top.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
But let this not make you complacent about the whole thing.
Definitely, sir.
Keep your feet grounded and make sure that you put into place all the things that have been said, and you sure have it in you to do it. All the very best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Hello, Nikhil.
Hello, sir.
Your answers were about quizzing club, cadre preference were very good. Even the hobby section was covered very well. You sounded honest in your answers, and that is your biggest advantage. At some point, you need to improve at one instance where the humor quotient was there, your laugh was a bit loud. It was informal.
Okay.
So you have to control that. Even the panelists are laughing. You should not laugh too loud.
Understood, sir.
It may be a sign of disrespect and informality.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. Yes, sir.
And I think you are not shaved or.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm trimmed. I trimmed my beard. I do not have a razor actually because I don't use it.
So on the final day, you should shave properly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When I asked you a question about the primary school education issues and secondary school, you only covered primary school and you skipped the secondary school.
Absolutely.
So don't do that. Listen question carefully and cover all dimensions and angles. Okay. And lastly, the Rajya Sabha question, the answer could have been more satisfactory.
Okay.
Apart from all this, your interview was very good.
Okay. So would you would you suggest any point regarding the Rajya Sabha question?
The question was that why population is a criteria as of now for deciding states representation in Rajya Sabha, and shouldn't we go for equal representation? So your highlight was on the part that India is an indestructible union of destructible states. Right. That could also be a point and could be justified as well. But the better answer could be that India or the constitution maker, they wanted to represent all kinds of population in the upper house. And that is why population was kept as a criteria and not states.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
In US, they want to give equal weightage to state because population is not that much criteria there. But we have that. We have
Understood, sir. Understood, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that was the point. Otherwise, you have very bright prospect to make into the top. And as rightly said by sir, don't let complacency set in. Otherwise,
absolutely, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nikhil.
Yes, sir.
Before I disclose your scores, would you like to ask anything specific there?
Yes, sir. This is my last attempt. Particularly the questions that Rakesh sir mentioned about why has it taken you so long? What's your history? That's a question that I'm uncomfortable with, how to approach that answer. Like I gave you the honest answer, sir. I did not handle the pressure very well on important days of the examination. How do I approach that answer, sir? If you could guide me on that.
Nikhil, nothing can substitute the truth.
So,
right? And sometimes members who would be sitting in the board, their experience would be more than your age.
Of course.
So if you try to bluff, then you may find yourself in dangerous waters.
Right, sir.
So what I would suggest is you accept the fact. You say that my planning and strategy was not good and also failed to understand the true nature of the examination.
So,
but I am consistent with my efforts, as you highlighted that is one of your one major criteria of your personality. aspect of your personality facet. So that's why I did not give up.
Right.
And I have learned from my mistakes.
So
committing a mistake is not a crime, but refusing to learn from your mistake can be considered as a sin. Do you understand that? So you highlight this, and when you say, you should really mean that here.
Understood.
Your voice should pierce their soul.
So
right? Only then they will have. Actually, that's the truth. Right?
Yes, sir.
क्या बोलोगे? तबीयत खराब हो गई थी या कुछ और? Whatever you say, you cannot justify it beyond the point, because there would be counter questions and you will not be prepared for all the possible. But you have lived this situation, right? I understand, Nikhil. 6 years of hard work, toil, so many sacrifices. You might have gone through several heartbreaks. But Nikhil, this is your opportunity. And read my words very carefully. I have a strong hunch, dear. You are in. You are in this year. Only thing is, do not allow complacency to creep in. Because at this moment, your biggest challenge is to not get complacent, and your biggest enemy is your overconfidence. Right? You have seen several ups and downs.
Yes, sir.
This is the moment. This is the moment. Walk into that interview hall as if you will come out as an officer. The worst that can happen to you is, God forbid, you do not get selected. Well, this is just a part of your life. Right? You should not allow this examination to dominate. That is what has happened in your previous attempts. Remember those days of the IITD where you dominated the examination. और क्या हो गया निखिल? फिर कुछ सालों बाद you started feeling the pressure, right? Now I can see you coming out of that mold of pressure. This is your year, buddy. This is your time, right? Go and achieve it. As far as this interview is concerned, the board has awarded you 190 marks.
Wow. Thank you.
What was your score last time, dear?
So 176.
So there is a definite improvement, right? And the bits and pieces that were highlighted, if you can work on those aspects, you are crossing that 200 mark barrier very easily. And if you touch that, I don't think we can say without a shadow of a doubt, at this moment, we are talking to a future IAS or IPS officer. I don't know.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a great experience, sir. Thank you so much.
All the very best, Nikhil.
All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.